What is going on, film fans? It is Brad from Let's Be Real Brad. Today on the channel, I will be talking about the brand new Blumhouse horror film called Firestarter. Firestarter is an adaptation of Stephen King's novel of the same name and is a remake of the 1984 film. Keith Thomas directs the film, and it stars Zac Efron, Ryan Kiera Armstrong, and Sydney Lemon. The film is about a young girl who tries to understand how she mysteriously gained the power to set things on fire with her mind. I must admit that I had low expectations of this film. The first and main one was the lack of screenings, as this film only had a few online screenings to critics that I was not a part of, and there were only like 20 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for the film before I started putting this review together. Plus, the film had its embargo drop on the day before it came out, which is usually a bad sign for a movie like this. With knowing all this, I was pretty nervous while watching the film, as the first 20 minutes of the film were surprisingly pretty decent, changing up many elements from the original and making it fresher, but after that, the movie goes downhill real quickly, as this turns out to be a really terrible film. What this remake messed up so poorly is the screenplay, as this movie tries so hard to keep itself relevant by making so many different changes just for the sake of making changes, because they don't go anywhere. All the characters are hollow, as I felt like I was watching a summarized, updated version of the previous film. As many issues I had with the original, I enjoyed that movie so much more because of how poorly written this movie is. This film features a ton of changes from that original film, and I would guess the source material of the novel, and I think if you're a big fan of both of those, you're really not going to enjoy this movie. And I'm someone who enjoys remakes changing up the story and doing something different, but when the writing is so bad and it feels like it doesn't even make sense for where they're trying to go with it, and it loses what made the original source actually good, then it just makes this movie so infuriating to watch, and I do think a lot of people are not going to enjoy the changes here. Let's dive into all the negatives first, and we have to start with the visual effects because they look laughably bad. As you guys may know, I am harsh on movies that rely heavily on CGI, especially movies with these massive budgets that look mediocre, but this is genuinely inexcusable with a movie like this. It has some of the worst CGI from a wide-release big studio film. The movie looks unfinished, which is quite an embarrassment considering Blumhouse films typically have great visual effects and CGI. The performances are also severely lacking, as everyone is painfully mediocre. Zac Efron is doing his best with the role, but he doesn't add anything to this character like David Keith did in the original. I found the chemistry between Zac Efron's character and Ryan Kiera Armstrong non-existent. Zac Efron didn't look and feel like a dad, as he felt like more like an older brother, which hurts the film because the father-daughter dynamic is such an integral part of this story. It could be due to the terrible direction given to the actors, because the other actors are also very dull and offer nothing to this movie. This aspect leads to my most significant negative, which is the direction. Keith Thomas made his feature film debut with a movie that came out in 2019 called The Vigil, which I heard was a pretty decent movie, but I don't know what happened with this movie because it looks and feels so freaking bland. It is one of the most dullest, slowest, and boring looking horror films I have ever seen. There isn't a single aspect about the look of this film that gives me any excitement, as I do with a lot of other horror films. The film feels more like a slow-paced drama, which works decently at the beginning of the film, trying to build on these characters, but if the whole movie is about our main characters on the run, hiding from this organization, you would think the movie would have loads of tension and stakes. This film features none of that, which shocked me because Blumhouse is so good at incorporating that aspect into pretty much all their films, and this movie just had a big, massive hole with it. Surprisingly, this film does have a few positives, with the one major one I can give it is the fact that this isn't a complete disaster. There is a few changes in this movie that I do prefer from the original film, which made sense for the narrative and the characters. There are some entertaining moments sprinkled throughout the second act, but in all honesty, this movie could have been so much worse, and it could have just not even been what Firestarter is even all about. And for some people, that might be what it is, and they might just hate this movie. I think it's one of the worst movies of the year. But the fact that this movie is an hour and 31 minutes and it just goes by, does its thing, and it's just basically a summary, updated version of the original film, I can't really truly hate this movie, even though it's awful. Overall, the 2022 adaptation of Firestarter was a misfire that failed to capture what made the original film and source material so enjoyable for so many people by failing to incorporate the deeper socio and political themes, as well as having mediocre performances and changes just for the sake of changes that ultimately go nowhere. This film will make fans of the original angry, fans of the book frustrated, and people who enjoy horror films simply annoyed. Don't even bother seeing this film, as it will be a big waste of time. I'm giving Firestarter a 3 out of 10. Thank you all for checking out this video. I hope you are all subscribed to the channel, and if you're not, hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so I can see you all in the following video.